How do you say? Dick Ruby? How do you say? Dick Gorge? Ooh la 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 la. How do you say? Delight, 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 delight.
Thanksgiving. Giving thanks for our deliverance. Thanksgiving. Giving thanks for our deliverance. As English, it's an American thing that you're not really too sure what it's all about, but it's the pilgrims arriving on the Mayflower, touching dry land, survived little plagues on the boat, and they had something to eat. That they foraged for, or got help with the North American Indians. But Thanksgiving now is something that I think should become an international thing, with an international message of thanks to your forefathers for what they suffered, so you can be here at all today. Poppy Day remembrance, in Britain anyway, has got usurped. It used to be after the war to end all wars, to avoid there being any more wars. Now it's sort of to subsidise war by repairing the people that come back from economic wars by means of charity rather than the government showing their appreciation, who needed to send them there in the first place because of their failings of diplomacies and they're pushing too hard with commerce.
Watch out!
No, keep on going around.
Olive,
You're
we are
going to
on the
film
table.
the chin on the table.
Yeah, we can all share the £100.
Now we
150.
know
Oh, wait,
my
Grandad
isn't it?
served, I believe it's
Thank
called,
you
in the
everyone.
Second
Thank you
World War,
everyone.
in Dunkirk in North Africa. Queues. We've heard a lot about queues. While the former Queen of England is lying in state in Westminster Abbey, long queues. And the fine weather was hailed. Now, Dunkirk, there were lots of queues. You had to queue to get on the boats. Big boats, little boats. You had to stand in a queue on a big stretch of sand out in the open to get on a jetty, a pier, to get on a ship. Many of them could see from there that the ships were getting sunk as targets not long after they'd left. And despite the RAF flying over the channel, German Stukas were dive bombing the beach a big percentage of the day. So you stand in your queue and you get machine gunned from the air. You sit in shell holes in the sand or dig protection and you're out of the queue then. Sure, you can make a quick dash for the shell shelter when you see something coming, but there's MPs there, military police, to keep the queue in order. Inevitably there's going to be queue jumpers, sort of like Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield, children's television presenter. Shame on him. Those military police kick the living daylights out of you if you're a queue jumper, and they're quite at liberty to just shoot you dead. They need to maintain order. They can put you to the back of the queue, after they've beaten you up, of course. But people did get on boats. It wasn't quite a victory in defeat as it's painted nowadays. Certainly my granddad didn't talk much, almost not at all, about the war, but it's how they didn't want to, and how they told you what they did, and when they told you what they did, and most importantly didn't do. That communicates so much. These were people that were brought up without a healthcare system and a welfare state, and they were provided for afterwards, and their children. Though that, of course, was a fight against the war profiteers to enable those systems to be born. The NHS, National Health Service, looked after them in their old age and helped my mother be born into this world. But when we wanted to have a rowboat in the local park, we couldn't get my granddad onto a little rowboat in the park lake. And he wasn't that keen on us children chuckling at him for his phobia that was a justified phobia, I'd say. I can't be thankful for what my grandfather endured on Remembrance Day anymore, sadly. An International Thanksgiving Day seems more appropriate, and I make that remembrance here in Britain then. It's not likely that it's going to get a national holiday, though, is it? A bank holiday, even in America where it's born. When I was in Aspen, working as an architect, 1 week's holiday, 1 week sick, and very few national holidays. 30 you get in Europe. But thinking about it, those pilgrims, a bit like the army, the war, long periods of boredom while they're on the boat, and intense activity and heartbeats per minute per effort. Arrival. Thanksgiving, is it a festival of euphoria? People in their weakened state will have just died from the sight of land, or half-decent food and clean water. Auld Lang Syne Day. New Year. That's more like a Festival of Euphoria Day, I think, but really that's a day of remembrance, giving thanks for making it through to the, and past, the longest day of winter. It's all downhill and should be plain sailing from here, but then people are also weakened, so it's in the darkest days are before the dawn, aren't they? But that depressing Auld Lang Syne song is mournful, and what's it doing there in the middle of the party? No, explaining the words to Auld Lang Syne and the meaning behind it. Is that what I'm going to do? Is that what you want? Did you not come here to party? So, with a little money left me from the sale of my grandparents' council house, former, which they bought with my mother's help, but was already theirs, more or less. Pay twice as much for the same thing. The ex-soldiers were provided these things so they didn't cause any uproar, and later the country's liabilities and assets had to be sold off. That's that Maggie, 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 out, out, out era. Closing down all the coal mines and what have you. A little like blood money. I'm buying a holiday home, a place in the sun. I'm guaranteeing myself work. But I don't have the money for the materials. Have faith in multi-million-dollar companies' waste will provide. Scrounging out of tips isn't, and skips, isn't what the trickle-down economy is really supposed to be about, but it's its best bit. In terms of real blood money, though, my grandmother insured my mother as a baby when she's waiting for a man to come home. Will she be able to support that baby? Will she need to be able to start all over again without him if he doesn't return home? In those days, a woman with a child had much less favourable prospects than a single woman, a widow. But my mother, knowing her mother, finding this ancient insurance document and asking her about it, she knew that there was the prospect that my grandmother might be killing my mother to save herself from a life of misery in the eventuality that her husband, the breadwinner, doesn't come home from war. Now, please excuse me, but it's a long drive down France, along the Western Front, as they used to call it, and cemeteries all the way, Maginot Line and the like. Tired driving and thankful. I'd done this drive recently in the Mini rather than the van, but the other half was never going to be sleeping in a Mini for the night ever again, and I was aiming for 2 nights, but more than 1 night in the van, in the hammocks, wasn't going to happen either. So doing this drive in one slog. The estate agent that I'd driven 1,000 miles to make the appointment with was a complete waste of time and only had half the keys, and so I could only access half the property. The bit I was most excited about, the roof, couldn't get in it. Or rather, could have done. Would have just taken a firm jerk at the door, but she wasn't having it. It had gone soon after and was saved for another, but I think, really, what I've got might have been a better option. Though I would have had all the creature comforts of the one flat, while still being able to work on creating a second flat in the loft. Now I've got 3,000 square foot to try and find materials for, and no creature comforts at all. But I am thankful to be able to get that place in the sun, near a ski resort, for the price that I got it. And decent-sized towns and cities nearby, and the prospect of work. Seasonal or minimum wage, but it's not an hour from the beach like I was hoping, but 3 hours isn't so bad. I have a home and an away to be thankful for. A landing in this new country, this new adventure, this new prospect.
Okay. I may take a lot of stuff. Guaranteed, I can back it up. I think I'ma call you bluff. Hurry up, I'm waiting out front. Give it to me, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Give me, I'm worth it. Give it to me, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. Okay.
T'as voulu voir Vierzon et on a vu Vierzon. T'as voulu voir Vesoul et on a vu Vesoul. T'as voulu voir Honfleur et on a vu Honfleur. T'as voulu voir Hambourg et on a vu Hambourg. J'ai voulu voir Anvers, on a revu Hambourg. J'ai voulu voir ta sœur et on a vu ta mère, comme toujours.
I'm sharing with you the shame.
Dans tes grands yeux noirs, je me suis perdue. J'attends un regard, le cœur suspendu. Je t'aime tellement fort, toi qui me fais peur. Est-ce un mauvais sort ou la mauvaise heure?
I'm sharing with you the shame.
Ça plane pour moi. Allez hop, t'occupe, t'inquiète, touche pas ma planète. It's not today que le ciel me tombera sur la tête et que la colle me manquera. Il revient à ma mémoire des souvenirs familiers. Je revois ma blouse noire lorsque j'étais écolier.
I'm sharing with you the shame.
Sur le chemin de l'école, je chantais à pleine voix des romances sans paroles, vieilles chansons d'autrefois. Faites-vous la guerre pour me faire la cour. Soyez gangster, soyez voyou.
London, such a lonely place to live without money.
Toi mon tout mon loupard, tu serais mon lascar superstar. J'ai tellement besoin d'amour, de tes bras, de ta voix de loup. Sortez les dollars et les bijoux de vos âges.
Dirty old river, must you keep rolling, flowing into the night. People so busy, make me feel dizzy. Taxi lights shine so bright.
L'éponge de Noël, le lendemain, milliards doivent venir de ta part, même un regard. Comme celle qui t'aime, c'est bien la reine des pommes. Comme Elisabeth, je porte une couronne. Que je n'ai pas bien, je suis la reine des pommes. Et toi, dis-moi que tu m'aimes, même si c'est un mensonge.
London, such a lonely place to live without money.
Puisque je sais comment la vie est si triste, dis-moi que tu m'aimes. Oublions tous nous-mêmes, ce que nous sommes vraiment.
I'm sharing with you the shame.
Amoureux solitaire dans une ville morte, amoureux imaginaire, presque ou qu'importe, que nos vies aient l'air d'un film parfait.
Don't overcook the liver. Don't overcook the liver. Keep it pink on the inside.
As long as I gaze on Waterloo sunset, I am in paradise.
It's all about the consistency of the mash. A bit like how George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic sang, "Where's the lumps in my gravy?" Don't overcook the liver. Don't overcook the liver. Keep it pink on the inside. For years, the Place in the Sun was going to be in Andalusia, half an hour to the beach, half an hour to the ski slope in the mountains above Granada. There's a valley, Lanjaron. But Spain started getting a bit strange on foreigners because of the Russians. And really, you're either there or you're not. You can't. The drive, can you imagine the drive from England to Andalusia? It's 8 to 12 hours to the Alps. That's much more doable. With a 36-hour trip, I think the whole reuse, repurpose concept might have been knocked on the end. I think I might be doing SRAM walls and my own Adobe bricks type podcast. But hey, with all that EU funding that Spanish got, the roads are so much better. Adobo. Don't be confused. One is a wet and dried earth brick. The other is a very tasty liver meal.
So easily done. Don't overcook the liver. Bunk.
As a regular visitor, you try and find more and more obscure things to do. Was it Brick Lane Flower Market at a previous time?
But I don't need no friend.
The jumble of garage that I showed you wasn't that bad, because it was in the neighbour's garage as well, but they wanted it emptied, so the yellow Rolls Royce there is packed to the hilt, ready to roll.
Vacation days spent alone.
Moi j'ai si peur dans le noir. J'ai tellement besoin d'amour, de tes bras, de ta voix de velours.
I'm sharing with you the shame.
J'ai tellement besoin d'amour, tu ferais de moi ta belle de jour.
Certainly not of the quality of the drawings.
J'ai tellement besoin d'amour.
But sketchy look. The iterant design.
Maintenant battez-vous. Maintenant battez-vous.
There's definitely a strategy to slightly inaccurate drawings that you know work. I've had so many planning drawings come into me to be construction detailed that
Girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mix of love, sugar, tempo.
1.5 head height in a loft space, floor to ceiling is the most extreme one. C'est la insalubre lacu entre les jambes, semblable au Brexit, la sortie de l'Europe. Une bouteille pour la table et une bouteille pour la route.
Le bon de repas du ferry, donné à tous les cyclistes, juste pour envisager un ascenseur vers l'ouest, comme il s'avère. Taquiné, j'ai fouetté mes tripes en traversant Douvres à vélo, pour être refusé à la station-service sur la base invraisemblable que la dépanneuse n'a pas de place pour un Brompton. Donc plusieurs heures jusqu'à l'aube frissonnant devant une gare.
The need for an electric bike has been emphasised. Do I go for a legal 250 watt or a useful 1000 watt to get up mountains? And the cost again of the battery, and the same cost again of a solar charger. P&O, c'est inflexible. Formulaire de localisation de passagers pour un voyage réserve uniquement, donc refuse une alternative de ferry très précoce, mais acceptable pour une ferry légèrement tôt et juste le hypocrisie. Mais beaucoup de temps pour le déjeuner. Mais beaucoup de temps pour le dîner. Une bouteille pour la table et une bouteille pour la route. Eh bien, je fais un vélo et je ne conduis pas. To explain to the French who live out in the country, you seem not to know drinking and driving is illegal and you are impaired.
An open book. You used to say, little let me.
I used to think
Buy a new van, hopefully a backup, that can be AA insured for a couple of years, up to 10 or 12 years. A T-32 should be built like a tank. Can't we do Russian references? Twice as much as I've ever paid for any vehicle before.
Radio-station en pleine nature.
Ce serait le pire des cauchemars, tout ça pour une histoire de langue. J'ai vécu mes plus belles histoires, en français et en flamand. La mer c'est que Nîmes, Dank et Bruxelles.
With tenacity and belligerence in my tone, I talked a good talk of mechanical keywords that I'd learnt, a fair amount of surprise, and pained expressions on French people's faces.
Let the sky fall and it crumble.
Architecturally, a planted wall, with the branches of one covering the pot, rooting of the next, and on. Perhaps the van was more grossly overloaded than the last half dozen migrations south. Perhaps the van was just COVID years older. Perhaps complacent, let's see, of the well-chosen Low risk, long route. Attentiveness. Not enough attentiveness, having kittens with the old girl, that's the van. Or just that I should have changed the engine oil at service mileage interval recommendations. And then I wouldn't be putting in a second engine.
You're not a dream, you're not an angel, you're a man. I'm not a queen, I'm a woman. Take my hand, we'll make a space in the lives that we planned. And here we'll stay until it's time for you to go.
After so many garagistes tell me le moteur est mort and do a cutting action on their throat and then mutilate it a bit further and getting it repaired and back to England and sorted out once it's in England from the half-baked job that the French garagist, overconfident, underskilled and half-fitted out work on the motor. After that, I've delivered my next load down to my barn and I'm empty and I'm heading north, back to England. I've done a lot of I got out of the habit a long time ago now, really, of putting 3 litres of vegetable oil in my diesel tank, making sure that I had a 50-50 mix with what was already diesel that was already there. It came to parity with the price of vegetable oil and the price of diesel. It seems to be coming round again, though. Especially in France, there's a vegetable oil shortage, don't you know? Especially when it comes to 2-for-1 offerte. Shelves are empty. Almost immediately. Work it out for yourself. People aren't daft. €2.10 for 1 litre of diesel for your vehicle. You can take advantage of the 2-for-1 offerte. Supermarkets in France aren't that great on their special offers. €3.50 for 3 litres. Once again, gasol, €2.10 for 1 litre. Even without any special offers on, if they're off the shelf straight away. €2.50 for 2 litres. It's fairly commonplace, fairly straightforward. Why is there a vegetable oil shortage? We all know why, but no one's writing it in a paper. It's propaganda. For ethical reasons and for health and safety reasons. Renewables, hydroelectric power, needs to be accelerated more than governments say that it needs to be accelerated. Because nuclear is the option, the other option. Nuclear isn't an option. It's a potential disaster. Fail-safes put in place, of course. There's the ethics of oil from Russia. That's always going to be a problem. That's always going to cause wars. It's a type of ethics. But no one's done anything about that. The HEP building here in the valley near me. Beautifully over-designed. It's over-designed in the thickness of the rusty steel that's been used, but it's a utility functional building and it's designed and detailed better than so much in Britain. That's supposed to be art. That's not just utility. Is that the architect? Is that the financial setup? I think it's the financial setup, quite honestly. But perhaps architects don't need to focus on making money so much. Perhaps it's all reputation, because there isn't so much work about.
We French, you'll find are more inclined to relaxez-vous. Relax, 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 relaxez-vous.
A method statement is usually a written way of doing something safely. They are all in my head, but I'm very aware of my method statements and I consider them very safe. You can remove a hazard, you can replace a hazard, you can isolate a hazard, or you can protect from. That's from most effective to least effective. So like PPE that protects you, that's like the least effective measure. You don't need to protect for something that you've removed as a risk. So it is something that is used only one trade in an area of a building site at any time. That is a method statement. Method. For me, I'm only ever going to be the only trade in the barn. That is an elimination of the slapstick type humour that you get in building sites sometimes. Not really so much one-upmanship, just a sort of arrogance of a big fish in a small sea, or I'm the most important person for me, for my price. I have tried to eliminate, I've replaced temporary structures to get to a level as much as possible. You have to erect these structures, and that's a risk. Scaffolding I'm talking about really there, aren't I? You can isolate things with administrative controls and engineering controls. Just change things, how things are done. You won't see me with gloves on. You will see me with masks on. I'm just emphasising this because you will probably get instructional videos at some point in time of how to scribe a piece of material to irregular shaped surface, like a skirting board or something, while creating a lot of mess, or the not creating a lot of waste method. It's like skiing an empty ski slope. There's no one for you to crash into, no one to crash into you, no mixed abilities to... Some of you have been skiing recently and you will know that. Beauty of COVID. So safe skiing. For curries, smuggle your own Patak's packet, because it's rare that you'll find a good French curry, and those Patak's packets are rare in Lidl or other else. Continental shovels, shall I call them? Oh, I just can't use them. It's all about the grippy hand thing on the shaft. The balance is perfect for scooping. Must be some Scottish bloggers in France need them for. Working to UK regulations on their electrics, which are quite different. My minor act of rebellion in that respect was using double insulated British cables, but with a French single insulated earth. One of the biggest tricks is that the earth on the 3-core and earth on the British regs, the earth isn't insulated, so it doesn't pass the French regs. What have I done with the British uninsulated earth that's doing nothing? I'm thinking about tying it to the multifoil insulation so that any earth build-up in the multifoil insulation gets transferred to ground. Blocked in again. I do feel cheated, and it is harassment, but do I want to take my neighbour to court and log in the incidents, or do I want to have a Vichy tantrum? Neither. So my preference on the night before I go home is to sleep out in the van down the road. A pleasant enough little spot. I see the jogger go by in the morning when I wake through the steamy windows. Concrete coming did work once for a little while. But it's like the neighbours, it's like a kids wind up game trying to get reaction, so don't give them a reaction. Like food cuisine tourism and boots tourism used to be a thing for people coming to Britain. Bio shop tourism, by the looks of things, must surely be a big thing. Similar brands but different. Different brands, different obsessions. But 3 in one small town, 3 bio shops, fully stocked like this. The population can't support it. Brexit gives duty-free shops a little bit more of a focus, but what do I bring back? Oh, there's the regulations. Perfume, bio stuff, you even allowed. A set of perfume and scented things. Alcohol, too much choice. 3-panel log burner, that's what I'd like to bring back, but it's the COVID thing, they're not on special offer. It was holding me back again. It's a long way north to think what I'm going to do when I get to Pays de Calais. When I get to the former coal mining region, do I go nuclear to get my van deposit back from the supermarket that I rented it from? Do I try and recover the engine code reset, €200, by fair means or foul? I didn't come up with an answer. Looking at the price of a litre of wine, it's not a litre though, is it? It's 750 millilitres. The price of a bottle of wine, perfectly drinkable bottle of wine, it can be as low as €1.50, but you're usually €2. Same price as diesel. Now, I'm not recommending you put wine into your gas tank. It's just, you can choose your route through France by what wine regions you go through. So I vary mine from the Burgundy region, through the Jura sometimes, through the Savoie region, and then Chambéry. It sort of peters out, strictly speaking, before you get to the heights of Isère. But then you can vary that with Burgundy region, Beaujolais, Val d'Aron wines, and pick some up along the way. Quite often you'll go into a wine shop, off licence, it's not an off licence, it's a wine shop, and be able to put wine in your own container from a pump, very similar to a petrol pump, but slightly. And back to the 3-process grind. Living the dream, living in a dream. Which is worse, dental drills or the making of them? I'm asking myself. Engine fuel, it was an engine fuel injection. The pins, the tapered and polished pins. Or were they engine fuel injection pins? Double tapered and polished pins? Ah. I must tell you about inadvertently covering for the Czech woman, I think she was, young skinny Czech woman that ate nothing but sweets, and her skipping out at midnight on the night shift, and covering that by covering, in animal breeding terms, the shift supervisor. I've got to tell you about that sometime. Progress of the barn conversion is ad hoc as finances allow. Scrounging materials stretches resources. Living costs are minimal but increasing with little luxuries. Brexit means I have to have a bank account. A bank account you have to pay for in France. It also means in order to have the carte de séjour I have to pay some sort of property taxes. Healthcare, that's another one. Healthcare you part pay for. You have to have insurance. Managed to avoid all these things before Brexit. But the things we do, the jobs we have done, the temporary agency work to get the funds in, to get back to where you feel you belong. Oh, French, I think this is who the Dracula neighbour with the skunk streak met online and made his wife and had 2 children with. She gave him his children. He got 2 children out of the relationship. But he must have realised the chance that it wouldn't last with the princess type. And our hearts can't bleed for him too much. He's a feeder, like a gambler, and he made his princess his victim too often. Are blokes brought up to want to pay for their princess? Sustain their lifestyle living vicariously? Does that motivate them to work harder so they don't get upgraded? A princess should be able to ratchet up their cachet, their quality and value, and make themselves indispensable. But it is only the illusion of being a team player. Then there's when self-respect has been parallelly eroded and the skills just aren't there. I'm greedy and I'm lazy scenario, deteriorating into the law of diminishing returns. And Les Miserables. A different workplace. A fair number of the Eastern Europeans are living out of camper vans in an industrial estate. Another better job in a large flower nurseries, where you separate out for an order huge trolleyfuls of pot plants in full flower. The employers set up a load of mobile homes where they all live field, roadside, next to all the polytunnels. Another living the dream job is another factory, monitor and record, don't sleep type job. A buxom Polish woman who's studying to be a doctor in Ukraine because you can get in and it's more affordable. She's on holiday in Britain where she used to live to make some money so that she can afford the cost of living in Ukraine, where she's got an another infill job. You drag around a cage of milk in a huge fridge. These cages on trolley wheels quarter of a tonne, and you're only allowed to drag one of them, push one of them. Everyone has to do 2. With the wheels, deterioration means that one trolley is as much hard work as 2 good ones. Intimidated by peers and management to drag 2, you're dragging around a tonne for 8 to 12 hours a day. Man, woman, Eastern European, British, African, peer slave driven in harmony. This pays for the barn, but it's a window on the world of how the African immigrant gets here. The harassment, catcall type, constant coercive control type behaviour. Like, they got themselves. Living the dream, or living in a dream type jobs. Work does give you a little window on the people's lives and trades if you've made different choices, and often make you feel lucky for your own lot. Your own lot, what you've got. I try and maintain a relationship with someone that has got a good, responsible job in Gloucestershire, a career in southwest England. I've quite often taken fairly soul-destroying jobs for a month or so. It's money coming in an infill period while I'm maintaining a home with that person. It's not a drama-type relationship, but I'm sure a lot of us have known that in the past. Which brings me to, why do people still bring up young girls to think of themselves as princesses? It just seems like sometimes the lowest form of baseline self-respect. That delusion, but that delusion can get you through a lot in olden days thinking and olden days relationships, which hopefully are declining. I like to think that we have exported British values, as their posters are all around schools. Exported British values with all Eastern European immigrants that then return home with the money that they've quite rightly earned here. Brexiteers would say that they've deprived from them. Can't discount that part of the appeal of Britain might be that we've got better, more easily available, probably cheaper drugs of so many different types than anywhere else in Eastern Europe, where the only route is the sleazy route. Which brings me to my Czech colleague. Attractive, slim woman on the skinny side. She's been there a little bit longer and she's shown me the ropes, but essentially we just have to sit there, tell someone else if something goes wrong, write some stuff down occasionally, but it stops us from snoozing. I've never done a night shift before. She's got a child, she's married, she works nights, her husband works days. Oh, all she eats is sweets. Brings several bags of sugar in every day, night, and caffeine, and sugary drinks. Perhaps her complexion would be better, but it doesn't affect her. She's not piling on the pounds at all, but she pops out for a smoke incessantly. Smokes so much. Her husband parks up in the car park and they go and have a cigarette together most nights. She skips off for half an hour and just assumes that I'll cover for her and then she's back. Other cars do arrive at other times in the night. The shift manager takes quite a lot of interest, and he quite often disappears for half an hour at the same time as her. Do cigarettes take half an hour to smoke? I'm not sure. I think there was like a prehistoric blackmail type scenario with the shift manager. I think he's getting blackmail sex, possibly. And then he's boasting when the next morning shift comes in. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me in a I know that he knows that I know now type way, like you do. Sleaze.